I don't know when, I don't know how, but I know something's starting right now under the sea. Hey everybody, welcome to Dad's Den of the Pop Culture. What's happening? It's a nice Sunday here in Vegas anyways. We're getting some good sort of fall temperatures for the most part. Like, it's pretty darn comfortable, you know, going outside on the patio, just hanging out with the dog, reading. It's been very, very pleasant. Hey, LOL from Lady Wendelin. Yesterday, I went to the Vegas Valley Comic Festival, the old Main Branch Public Library on Flamingo. Dude, that is the library I haunted a lot when I was a kid. A lot. I was like a weirdo who begged mom to go to the library on the weekend. There were Ed Imberly drawing books that I wanted badly. I'll show one of those off because I got like a newer printing of one of those. I was obsessed with those things. It was drawing, but it was really simple. I mean, a lot of it like stick figures, but like the best stick figures. Dude was amazing. There was a series of books that this guy wrote that were all about like military weapons, World War II, Korean War, probably into Vietnam. They were like black and white illustrations, but I was obsessed with those. So I'd always be going, those are the two spots in the children's section. Bump, bump, hit those two. And then later on in the magazine section, I discovered they had old issues of Dragon Magazine. Boo. I would check them out, go not real far away to a Kinko's and photocopy the articles that I wanted. And photocopies were not super cheap back in the day. And probably I spent more money on the photocopies than if I'd actually just bought the magazine. I didn't have any money of my own, but so I'd have to still, Mom, can I, okay, it's $2, get photocopies. But anyhow, so went to the library and it was fun. It was a nice, it's like kind of a small convention. There's an artist's alley. Matt Wagner was there. I didn't do a bunch of, I don't know. I'm weird. I never, like, what do I go up to somebody and say? I'm not good at that. I thought about bringing my Dracula books and seeing if I can get them signed, but I ended up not doing it because I'm a dork. But he was there. Kenneth Roquefort was there. But Don Glut was there. And my buddy Jarrett Keene did an interview with him. So I got to sit, with a crowd. It wasn't like a private interview. And Don Glut told stories about working for Marvel, doing some work for DC, doing work for Gold Key, which he loved because Gold Key was not Comics Code Authority, which meant you could do like vampires and zombies and stuff that he loved because he was like a monster dude from way back when. Although he said you couldn't use in your dialogue, you couldn't use the words like ain't, or you couldn't say what the, so you had to have proper diction for like your zombies and your vampires. But yeah, dude, he wrote like a bunch of what if. He kind of pretty much came up with the whole what if, Jane Foster became Thor. He actually got a credit in the one Thor movie where they have her being Thor. So he did a lot of what if. He did some Invaders. He said he really enjoyed Invaders. He did Dagar the Invincible over at Gold Key, among other things. He wrote some of the earliest Vampirella, or maybe the earliest Vampirella. He is now writing for Shudder and for Vampirus Carmilla. He went in to do animation, so he wrote scripts for the Transformers. He wrote one for G.I. Joe, so he did some of that kind of stuff. So yeah, really cool. He also wrote the novelization to Empire Strikes Back, which I did a review of on this channel. a while back. And doesn't really like to talk about the fact he turned down the Star Wars novelization, but it's really because he was offered $1,000 flat to write it and would not have his name on the book. So he's like, well, screw that. So anyhow, but it was good. It was fun. Got to walk around, grabbed a few comics there. I'll show those off now. Didn't go crazy or anything like that. My daughter has become a fan of the Harvey character Hot Stuff. She has never read a Hot Stuff comic, but she got a t-shirt with Hot Stuff on it and thought he was super cute. So I did find a few Devil Kids starring, it's amazing, Devil Kids starring Hot Stuff. What does it say at the bottom? In this issue, can Hot Stuff meet the challenge? Oh, I don't know. He's maybe possessing an infant or something. Gulp, I hope she can broom handle that. Oh! So these were only a couple bucks, so I'm like, okay, well, let me grab a few of those. There's a weightlifting contest. So she can maybe actually read this character that she's decided she's a fan of. Grabbed, not in great shape, but I grabbed an old Josie and the Pussycats. And a couple old Avengers versus the Squadron Sinister. And this was the follow-up where they're fighting old Western heroes. Prices were pretty groovy. Guy had a dollar bin, so I grabbed 3 issues of Crystar. The Saga of Crystar, Crystal Warrior. Talk about your long titles. That's a Sienkiewicz, I'm pretty 90% sure. Yeah, it's a Sienkiewicz. That's actually the first one that I saw, and I'm like, oh, Sienkiewicz cover for $1. Yeah, I'll do that. And then found a couple underneath it. And then I grabbed a few, also from the dollar bin, a few New Warriors issues, because I've been sort of collecting those. Hey, Ramey, what's happening, sir? So I grabbed a few of those. Loved Hot Stuff. Came real close to getting Hot Stuff tattoo. Ah, nice. Get a Hot Stuff tramp stamp. Go all the way. Just go all the way with that one. Horrify your friends and your family. So there we go. New Warriors. Or you could get like a whole lineup of the Harvey characters as sort of like a tramp stamp, right? Hot Stuff, Richie Rich, Casper, Wendy the Good Little Witch. I don't know who all else they have. Anyhow, that is what I picked up at the little convention. But I had fun, and I'm not one who goes to a lot of that stuff. Kind of an introvert, and so I kind of avoid it. But Jarrett was interviewing Don Glut, and I'm like, I kind of want to see that for sure. Like to support him, so I'm going for it. I'm doing it. It ran from I'd say 10:30, I think, to 5 or 4, maybe 10:30 to 4:30. I think that was maybe it. So I popped down around 1 o'clock, just wandered around a little bit. There's a decent crowd. A lot of folks had booths up. There were a good number of kids walking around. Everybody seemed like they were having a good time, having a good, in a good mood. I'll tell you what, though, it was not really hot yesterday, but standing in the direct sun. Oh man, that winter sun, you forget sometimes, especially here in Vegas. You stand in the shade and it just feels wonderful. And you step out in direct sunlight for about 5 minutes and you feel like you're being cooked. So that was the only negative. There's a few folks doing some cosplay of Superman, who I've seen at other things here in town. I think he's part of a charity group that will do stuff like that for children's hospitals. And he does actually make a really good Superman. Saw Supergirl for sure. It may have been in Ahsoka. It was one of the Star Warsy. I think it may have been Ahsoka. It was a good cosplay. Although I'm always like, God, I don't think I could be doing the friggin' makeup on my face all day long. That would drive me nuts. Yeah, Sleepy Reader. Hey, Sleepy Reader, how's it going? It's 54 here in Mississippi. Yeah, we're like, I actually don't. Oh, no, I actually do, because my wife has a temperature thing on the computer. 76 degrees and sunny right now in Vegas. It was probably only like mid 80s yesterday at that time of day. Like, not bad, but God, standing in that sun, I'm like freaking baking. What is going on here? Well, let's see what we got today. I saw this reported in a few places, in this in particular on the Kyoto News, that Japan's Super Sentai franchise is coming to an end after 50 years. Apparently, simply put, it is no longer really profitable. Just ain't making the money in merchandising and stuff that needs to support making the shows. So the final series will be number 1 Sentai Gozyuger, which I'm sure I'm butchering that pronunciation, which will have its finale in 2026. So that's a pretty damn amazing run. Honestly, that's pretty fantastic, especially when you consider, like, it's pretty damn formulaic, I mean, they change it up, but like, each episode's kind of runs along the same lines, but they kept it going. Don't get me started on Sentai. I've triggered Ramey Butler. I just was going to note it began with Himitsu Sentai Go Ranger, 5 Rangers. I mean, I guess maybe Go Ranger is how you say it. I always love, what do they call it? Japanese English. I can't remember the term. But at any rate, I love that they love our language, though. And I love that we love their language. What a weird relationship we have with Japan. That was in 75. And so the last one is going to be the 49th entry into the franchise. And, of course, the American adaptation, which had a pretty good run itself. Power Rangers. I don't know, folks. Yeah, I've watched, what was the one with the fighter jets? Because I read an article that it was sort of the Sentai series that saved Super Sentai from being canceled, like back in the 80s. It was one of those deals where it's like, make the thing, we don't really care. So they got a little bit more freedom, apparently. And they had a character that was this sort of brooding bad boy who was apparently popular with Japanese moms. And so moms were, cool with their kids watching the show because they wanted to see that. And what they figured out was, dude, we need to sell toys to keep these things on the air. Kids want toys, but kids don't buy toys. Moms buy toys. So make something that mom is cool with. Mom buys toys for kids. And it keeps it going. Used to thinking these pop culture. Yeah, I know, right? And I think we do. I think it's part of the issue we're dealing with right now. Like, I'm reading the new issue of Castle Frankenstein. Good magazine. I'm really enjoying it. I talked about cryptology a while back on the stream, which is really good. It reminds me a lot of old Film Facts magazines. And this one too, same kind of deal, same kind of vibe. I'm really liking it. And they were doing a whole thing about Mr. Magoo cartoons and when Mr. Magoo would meet different monsters. And so they kind of go through some of the different incarnations of Mr. Magoo and said that, at least in animation terms, it really, I think in the 80s was the last, or maybe the late 70s was the last animated incarnation really of Mr. Magoo, and that was about it. And, they said, and maybe with Jim Backus being gone, because his personality had such a big influence on the character, maybe it's better that way. Maybe we let Mr. Magoo just stay retired. It was a nice little run for about 20 years or so. the old stuff's still around. You could still watch the old stuff, but maybe it's better not to try to, and I know they did a Mr. Magoo live action with Leslie Nielsen that I don't think was beloved. I'm sure it was beloved by somebody, but generally not beloved. So yeah, maybe it's better with some of these see, darn it. I was going to show off the Castle Frankenstein mag on this one. But I'm like, well, I'm only about halfway through reading it. Maybe I'll show it off on a later stream, but I picked it up at Barnes and Noble. And it has like a lot of reviews of horror movies. The Magoo thing. It's a cool magazine. It has a lot of fun stuff in it. It's definitely worth a read. But I was going to mention, I don't know if a lot of people know this. I'm sure a lot of like geeks and nerds know this, but just in case, the sort of role that Stan Lee played in the creation of Power Rangers, because apparently when he was doing the deal with Toho that gave them the license to do the Japanese Spider-Man, Spider-Man, which is a really, really fun show, honestly. And then he was getting the licenses to do the Godzilla comic, the Shogun Warriors comic. He saw the precursor to sort of Super Sentai. What is it now? I'm blanking on it. Was it like Sun something? I'm sure one of you guys knows it. And he said, oh, you know what would be awesome is to bring this over to the US, just redub it, and he may have even thought about using American actors as well, since you could still use the action scenes. I'm not sure if he went that far, but just redub it. It'd be really cool to release something like this in the United States. And he shopped it around, never could get anybody to bite on the concept. Well, a woman who worked for him with Marvel Productions, like doing the animation stuff, she goes on to become the head of the Fox cartoon division, for their television stations. And she's the one who kind of greenlights the whole Power Rangers thing, an idea that Stan Lee had, I don't know, maybe like 20 years earlier, 15 years earlier. So, give it to Stan. He was right. That was very popular in the United States and sold a whole lot of toys over the years. But yeah, sadly, Super Sentai is going away after 50 years. Could be back, but again, with all these things, and you could still watch them. I know they're not going to be new, but put them in a rotation. Like, what if you every year you watch one of the Sentai series, right? So you watch the first one year. Next year you watch the second. The first 7 were great, Raimi said. Take you 7 years to go through all those. If you just parse them out, and by the time you get to that 7th year, you go to the 8th year, watch the first one again. Now it's been 8 years since you watched it. Get a good, you kind of keep stuff rolling. Raimi says, Sentai was supposed to have 5 Captain Americas. As well they should. Although now we have probably about, Captain, yeah, that's right. I did hear about that. That would have been cool. Captain Germany could be a little, I don't know if I would have gone Captain Germany, but America, Japan, Russia, Germany, and Africa. I like Africa always gets lumped in, It's like, it's almost as big as Asia. It has like hundreds of languages, dozens of nations, very different peoples, but it's always like, Africa. It's all one big thing. Yeah, Hollywood did have trouble. Stan had trouble with Hollywood. I look at what Hollywood's up to these days. Hollywood might not actually be that friggin' smart. I've often believed that once you were away from sort of the studio system, which was heavily dependent on the fact that the studio heads were were pretty good at their jobs, right? They had a pretty good touch. Once you get well beyond that, almost feels like Hollywood succeeds accidentally when it succeeds. Like everything they think is going to be big bombs, everything that they don't really want to do, but we'll allow it, ends up succeeding. It seems rare that Hollywood is ever right about something. And somehow, though, they'll get the big hit, and a few smaller hits, and that keeps everything else afloat. It's a weird system. Dude, I did actually, speaking of comic conventions, before this one I went to yesterday, the last one I went to, I was probably in college. I think it was after high school. I think it was. So 30 years ago. And buddy of mine wanted to go because he wanted to buy this Doctor Strange print, which I can still kind of picture in my mind. Do not remember who the artist was. And I loaned him some money to do it, which for me was really like, just here, dude, take it. It's cool. I tend not to loan money. If I can't afford to lose it, I don't loan it. So I usually just like, here, if I get it back someday, fine. But if I'm that worried, I generally won't do it. But anyway, he's like, well, come along to the thing. Cause he was working at a comic book shop, so he could get me in for free. All right. Yeah, why not? So I go and, I'm wandering around the place. He's off buying that print. I'm wandering around looking at something. I look over and there in a booth, it's Stan Lee sitting in a chair. There's nobody there. Cause like a lot of folks have forgotten this, but around the late 80s, there was a lot of disdain aimed at Stan Lee, at Jack Kirby, at Steve Ditko, and the stuff that they wrote and the stuff that they drew. Because, hey, like we got Todd McFarlane now, that's way better than anything Jack Kirby ever did kind of stuff. Now, I will say right off, that disdain was not coming from like Todd McFarlane or Rob Liefeld or any of those guys. That was not coming from them, but it was coming from a lot of their fans, right? And Stan Lee's stuff is corny, it's ridiculous, it's whatever. Okay. And granted, some of the stuff that those guys were producing at that point was not great, but that's kind of, it's not to say the old stuff they did was obviously, it was amazing, but there was a lot of disdain for those guys. So Stan Lee, this is freaking Stan Lee, sitting there is nobody. So I'm like, shit, man. So I walk over and introduce myself. Hi, shake his hand. And I had just at that point bought a bunch of those paperback versions of the old Spider-Man reprints. They're like pocketbooks about yay big. Wait, yeah, I'm in frame. Okay. About yay big that reproduced, I want to say 6 issues in each one of them. And I think I had 3 or 4. So it basically gave me the first like maybe 18, 20 issues of Lee and Ditko's Spider-Man. And up till that point, I like came in on Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man run. And I had read some of the older stuff in, I want to say Marvel Tales was doing Spidey reprints from like the Romita era. I had never read the originals. It wasn't always easy to get that stuff before anything was digitized. Like you kind of had to have the physical copy or you had to have a reprint. And I had just read those and they freaking blew me away. Be honest, completely honest with you. Once I read those, and saw Ditko and how he drew and what he did, I was ruined for Todd McFarlane and Liefeld, all those guys. I was ruined for them. I fell in love with what Ditko and then Kirby were doing. But I got to just stand there and chat with Stan Lee about Spider-Man for like, I don't know, a few minutes. And then I think maybe somebody finally showed up and, so I excused myself and left so he could talk to other people. But it was is kind of rad. And it almost feels like there's times where I'm going, I actually I shook his hand and chatted with him for a couple minutes, just casually at a convention. How weird is that, Because thankfully, not too long after that, and I think probably because of some of those artists who heard those guys being maligned, like they came out and they're like, what are you talking about? These guys are freaking amazing. And a lot of love rushed back into the old comic books and the old comic creators again, such that by the time you're getting to San Diego Comic-Cons with the MCU and all that stuff, Stan Lee is 8,000 people are waiting to just, talk to him for 2 seconds. But I guess I got kind of lucky at that point. What do we got? Let's see. We got a few things. Raimi, Stan Lee's brother, was an amazing artist, writer. Yeah, he was. Yeah, Larry Lieber. Absolutely. Hey, there's Lone Dragon. Hoi, hoi. So what else do we got here? What do we got here? We also got little stories that I heard. The Wrap, W-R-A-P, reports that a new Buck Rogers film is on its way from Zeb Wells, the writer of Deadpool and Wolverine, Robot Chicken, and Marvel Zombies. It is based on the first Buck Rogers novella, Armageddon 2419 AD, which, by the way, is public domain. And I wonder if they have the full licensing, because I want to say he's not called Buck Rogers in that. And if you want to technically call him Buck Rogers, you got to have the license from folks. Although maybe some of the other Buck Rogers stuff is, Raimi, that's exactly what I was thinking. And when I looked up what the guy had wrote, I'm like going, great. So that, of course, there's the original from Amazing Stories, written by Philip Francis Nolan from 1928. And here's why they're going to do a little adapting. Because that story is very specifically about Chinese hordes conquering and destroying Western civilization. And, what's left, what Buck Rogers comes into are the sort of Americans who are left. So it's sort of a futuristic Yellow Peril kind of thing. Because that was a general idea that people had for a long period of time, was just due to numbers alone, the Chinese are going to overrun everything. And basically the Westerners had their empires and they were terrified it was all going to fall apart. And that was kind of represented in that a little bit. So I'm going, well, they're probably not going to be real accurate on that one. It wouldn't sell many tickets in China, but we'll see what they do with it. The article was just entirely putting in pictures of the Buck Rogers TV series, which frankly, if you just wanted to make a wild and crazy, fun sci-fi romp, kind of patterned off of that show, okay with me. That would be fun. It would be almost like the old Flash Gordon movie. Raimi says the painter who did Marvel owns Flash and Buck Rogers. Really? Alex Ross? Okay. His name is Buck, and yeah, he's here to Chuck? I don't get it, man. I don't get it. Yeah, so I don't know what they're going to end up doing with it, but yeah, I mean, my first thought is, oh crap, here we go. But again, you know what? I just finished watching the Buck Rogers series. I'll be completely honest. I kind of skipped after they went to the different costumes and screwed up Tweaky's voice and all that other stuff. But, and it's fun. It is a fun freaking show. I think I mentioned this on my last one too, stream. I'd started watching Riptide. All right. 80s show. You got Perry King, who did the voice of Han Solo in the radio adaptations, which every time I heard him talk, I was thinking of friggin' Han Solo. The other dude's name is escaping me all of a sudden. But you got these two guys who are like detectives, ex-military. They hook up with this nerd who has this crazy robot. They live on a boat. They have a helicopter. They fight crimes. there's gunfights, there's chases. There are lots of girls in bikinis because they're in, Southern California by the beach, etc. And dude, it's a fun show. It's not complicated. It's a fun show. The earlier episodes have Anne Francis on them. She owns a boat nearby, and like her boat is entirely crewed by women, and she doesn't let the guys anywhere near them, and so it's kind of fun watching Honey West threaten these dudes. But it's such a simple concept to do. And there is such room for that kind of entertainment. And it does not need to be done in a kind of a weird exploitive way. Yes, there's girls with bikinis, but it's not like it's weird for them to have bikinis on because they're by the beach, And yes, they're attractive, and guys like to look at attractive women. And to be honest with you, women are, at least on TV, don't mind attractive women either. Sometimes in person, they get a little jealous, but it's fun, right? It doesn't need to make a statement. You don't have to make it like gross and have the guys leering at women or anything like that, which they don't do. It's just like, it's good old fashioned action adventure with attractive people. I mean, the two guys who are the leads are good looking too for the ladies, and they end up with their shirts off here and there. It's just like, why not? Why not? And so Buck Rogers was kind of the same thing. It was almost like an update of Star Trek in terms of, you have a lot of good looking ladies walking around. What doesn't hurt anybody. And it was a fun show. God bless America. Can we just have some fun freaking shows? Fun for guys, and shows that are just fun for women, which they kind of have. Like the Hallmark shows that women are raving over, that's woman fun. They love that stuff. And I know there's women who don't, but I'm just saying for the, the mainstream, right? They have their stuff. Let us have our stuff. And then we'll cross-pollinate a little bit, and we'll all have fun. Oh, it's Vince here. Hey, you started? Yeah, I'm sorry, dude. I had to. I haven't ranted too much low yet, really. I just finished ranting, I guess, a little bit. The only other news story that I saw that I thought was a little interesting was that a judge ruled that George R.R. Martin and other authors can continue a lawsuit against OpenAI for copyright infringement, which I think is probably a good thing. You want to use this stuff to do cool things, great. But if you're training it in a digital way off of other people's work, because they did find that it was producing stuff that was a little bit too close to what Martin was doing with his books. And, not just being inspired by, because let's be honest, OpenAI and the ChatGPT, it can't be inspired by anything. It's not a human being. It doesn't have a human mind. It's not artificially intelligent. It's a language model learning thing. It's not. It's copying. It's copying what other people do. So anyway, so that's going forward. My wife loves those sci-fi disaster movies. So sci-fi disaster movies. So not like Towering Inferno type stuff, or would that be included? Because I love Towering Inferno. I freaking love that movie. That is so friggin' good. And yeah, Sleepy, I agree with you, man. Anything to slow down AI is good by me. Yeah. I think if it can be used in a tool in a positive way, but I'm just seeing a lot of really gross people licking their chops going, we are going to never have to pay for art again. And they're going to, look, I don't think that stuff they produce is going to be popular, but what I think it will do is flood the marketplace and at least initially knock a lot of up and coming younger artists out. They're not going to be able to compete because their skill level is not high enough at that point. So they're going to really need, patrons to help them get up to that notch, to get better work out so that they can start commanding higher prices. And I think they will at a certain point. I think it'll almost be like, Wonder Bread versus artisanal bread. You go to the real bakery and you get the real bread and it's so friggin' good. And a lot of times you'll pay more for that. Although we got a bakery here in town, really close to us, that, dude, it's the stuff there is so good and so cheap. It is ridiculous. But, you know, you get the idea of artisanal bread. Artisanal art sounds kind of weird, but I think at a certain point, getting something done by a human being that shows, you know, the passion and shows their particular skills is going to probably go for more, because all the other stuff's just going to be this mass-produced crap. You know, it's like made in China. You know, AI. That's one thing I think they could do. If the federal government wanted to do something useful, not like super obtrusive, but kind of useful, would be to anything made by AI has to say it was made, you know, either by AI or with AI, so that people can at least go, oh, okay, you know, because look, it's going to get better and better over time, and it'll start fooling some people potentially, you know. I say label the stuff so we know what's done by our fellow humans, what was done by a computer, and we can make our choice. And I think if that happens, the sort of made by AI, even if it's getting a little bit better, it's still going to be very samey. And I think it'll be looked at like, you know, oh, it's cheap crap. Yeah, don't really want it. Finn says, AI is going to shape our world more fundamentally and quickly than anything in history. Wheel, fire, electricity, all that is going to look like nothing compared to what AI does. Yeah, I'm at this weird place now where I'm going, AI is either going to be huge or it's going to be the biggest nothing that ever happened, that like people are going to sort of go, huh, yeah, okay. But what's, you know, because I'm right now, most of the big AI initiatives they're not making money. Large corporations are already kind of going, huh, this isn't really working. It's not really that useful at this point. It seems amazing, but, and younger people don't seem to be really massively going for it. Like, oh, this is the newest thing. You know, I'm hearing kind of from younger people of like, yeah, it's crap. You know, they're kind of wanting something different. So I don't know. Believe me, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm saying I feel like I'm at this 50-50 point of like, where's it going to fall out? But I don't know, man. There's, like I said, I always bring this up as an example. The microwave oven was going to replace all other forms of cooking at one point. It was obvious it was going to, right? You cook things in like 2 minutes, 5 minutes. Way better than the old-fashioned cooking. I got the friggin' book back there, and I did a review on this channel, if you want to look for it, of the microwave cookbook. It is all about how to do all sorts of dishes in the microwave, which I really want to try to make a few of them for fun. And the reality is, microwave didn't go away. It proved to be good for heating things up, although a lot of times with my wife and I, we'll still heat stuff up in the oven. But it was good for frozen foods. It's good for heating up your coffee when you don't drink it quick enough, which I do all the time. My father in his house, every time you open the microwave, there was a cup of tea sitting in there that he put in, heated up, and forgot to take out. It's got its uses. Did it completely erase old-fashioned cooking? Nope, not at all. In fact, I think cooking almost came back stronger as a result. Polyester is another example. It was going to replace all normal fibers, like natural fibers. This stuff's perfect. It's great. It's wonderful. And over time, people it became a byword for cheap crap. Now, you still got polyester in a lot of stuff. You know, you have 100% cotton, but you got a lot of blends out there too. Didn't completely take over the friggin' world though. So, you know, AI could honestly become like the new microwave or polyester. Like, it ain't going away, and it's going to be found to have some particularly good uses in it. No doubt about it. But is it going to take over everything? I mean, hey, you know, we have wheels, but we still walk, right? So even the wheel didn't completely replace human feet. Raimi says, I'm sick of teens. You could just stop there. No. Sick of teens saying I'm going to be an artist. Then AI came out, and then those same teens are now saying I'm going to be a plumber. Yeah, like, I think the hard part, though, if you're talking about, like, again, younger people, you have not built up an audience yet. You have not built up your skills yet. When I was publishing role-playing game books, I commissioned artists. And because, like, look, I was small time. I didn't sell tons of copies of things. I was working with my own money. I wasn't doing Kickstarters for the most part. I did one way back when. I showed some of it off on Twitter. I think it might have been the first role-playing game Kickstarter that was done. It had to be one of the first. And I think I was trying to raise a grand total of $290 for art for a book, and I just barely made it. but I made it. But mostly it was out of my own pocket. So I would look for artists who were newer at it and had lower commission rates, because that's what I could afford, you know? And at least a couple of them, I gave them my business. They started producing stuff. Their stuff got better, and they got more work from other people and improved, because I was there to fund it at maybe the beginning stage, you know, so they could build. My worry of AI is because AI will be so easy and so cheap that you're not going to go to those younger artists, and therefore they're not going to get an opportunity. I was talking with an artist at that comic festival yesterday, and we were talking about, you know, really great artists who don't start off really great. And I had mentioned Mike Kaluta in that old Tarzan comic that I'd read, where he was doing the backup story, Carter from Venus. And, you know, when I saw like the cover blurb, I'm like, oh, hell yeah, Kaluta doing Herb. That's awesome, man. And I go back to it, and it was like, this isn't very good at all. Like, this is not good. And this is probably early to mid, probably more like mid 70s. And dude, by like, I think late 70s, he was producing, you know, the shadow work that was phenomenal. And the point is, and this artist kind of agreed with it, because he was relatively new, not super new, but relatively new at it. And he was saying, oh, he goes, I didn't really start getting a lot better until I started getting work. Like, you can kind of play and practice all you want, but when you start actually getting work and doing a lot more drawing and having to do certain things, you get a lot better at it quickly. And see, are we going to have that phase? Like, it's cool to see DC Comics go, we're not going to do AI, because that would completely undercut their supply of artists, potentially, if it did. I mean, both from people not wanting to work for them, but like not having the younger folks getting that opportunity to get in there and get better. So, you know, that's my worry, AI, as far as that goes. It's just knocking the feet out from under young artists and young writers, you know, and maybe young filmmakers at this point too, if you see some of the stuff people are doing. And I know there's work involved in the prompts and all that. It's not like you just go, you know, AI, make me a, 2.5 hour action film, and it spits it out. I mean, it's more than that, but it can still rob a lot of talented people their chances to get good at what they do. So we'll see. I think for a while, it's going to probably be like an underground, you know, of like indie stuff where people are going to cut their teeth, and it's going to be up to a lot of us out there who really appreciate artists to support it, which means, you know, we're going to be paying more for less for a while to get those people going. The cheaper alternative is going to be the AI stuff. Now, maybe with our generations being raised on real stuff, we're going to just always be kind of like, I can't watch this stuff. It's not good. But younger generations coming up, if you start watching AI stuff when you're 3, it's just going to seem normal to you. And you may not even be able to tell the difference between AI and non-AI at some point, unfortunately. So we'll see, man. But so I understand where they're going. I'm going to be a plumber, because they might not see the ability to make any kind of living at first. But you know what? If you're a plumber, awesome. When you get home, do some drawing. Put it out there. Get critiques. you know, and get good at it. Like I was working a full-time job when I did all my role-playing game books. I did it as a hobby. I didn't make a ton of money at it. I still don't. I make a few bucks every year. I use it to buy stupid toys and fun things for me and Christmas presents for people I love. And that's about what it can do. I can't afford much more than that off of it. I couldn't have ever quit my job. I did it in my side as a sideline, but as a result, I learned something about laying books out and the publishing process and all that. So it was good. You're a plumber, you can still be an artist, you know, and maybe someday the art will be doing so good, you don't have to be a plumber. Although I don't know if art will, you have to be real good at art before it'll make you more money than plumbing. I would think. Marvel uses AI in all their coloring books now. Yeah. And that's crap, man. That's crap. I think there will be Bisleys and Geffens. I think there will be, because I think being distinct from the AI crap is what's going to get you noticed. You know, I think it will. I think it will. And that's where the lawsuits come in too. You know, AI should not be able to produce art that looks like Simon Bisley. It really shouldn't, because that's his style. He developed it. It's his. He owns it. He owns it. They're going to have to crack down on that. If they will, I don't know, but you can use my help on self-publishing. Yeah. You know, if you go to my old website, my old blog, Land of Nod, I got my email address on there. Shoot me emails. Oh, you shoot me emails already. Yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it, you know my email. So yeah, just, any questions, just throw them out. I'll do what I can. I mean, it's been a little while since I did it, to be honest. So it's possible in the last, 5 or 6 years that like something has changed over at, Lulu is where I initially did stuff, and I put stuff on, the drivethrurpg.com, if it's still even called that. They seem like they change their name every 10 minutes, but yeah, any questions, man, I'm happy to help with all that kind of stuff. Happy to help. Again, I'm not a person who's trying to make like money at it, like in a big way. So I have no inclination to, oh no, I don't want him making stuff. It'll cut into my profits. I make a few bucks. I have a good time, and I might get back into it one of these days. We'll see. The de facto coloring book method. Yeah, that's sad, because I know some folks, I like, not personally, but I know artists out there who, made money doing coloring book art, and they had a particular skill at doing it real clean, just the nice line work. Well, what can you do? Let's shift gears a little bit here. We'll take the slide down. So arriving in the last week or so was the McFarlane Batgirl. Pretty cool. I managed to grab this one, and I thought it might be kind of fun to take it out of the package. Here's the back of the thing. Gee, I don't see what guys see in her. It's unbelievable. But I thought it might be fun to take it out of the box and get a better look at it. And here's where I put my little pocket knife in my pocket. And I said, but you know what? Take it out of the pocket before. Oh, no, I did. There it is. I was like, I thought I left it in my pocket. I was like, take it out of your pocket, because you're never going to get in there because you're fat. I talk very, very frankly with myself. Got to cut those too. So we'll take this out while we chat about stuff. Mint Return of the Jedi coloring book. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I found a few old coloring books recently. I'm going to take that all the way out of there. Yeah. It comes with the trading card and the base, which is not super exciting. I kind of missed the trading card era. It was bubblegum cards still for me. But when the trading cards and the card games got massive, I was a little bit on the old side for a lot of that stuff. and didn't really get into it the way the millennials did. So when I get those little cards, I'm always like going, and what exactly am I going to do with this? Where am I going to put this thing? I actually got a bunch of those card sleeves on, I don't know, I guess Amazon or something like that, because I had a ton of cards that would come with comic book crowd funds. That became a big thing for them to do. One more, and I think I can get her out of the plastic. Yeah, so I had all these friggin' cards. I'm like going, I don't know where I'm going to put these things. Oh, yeah. Oh, I get you. Yeah, I used to keep all of the boxes for figures, even though I always took them out because I typically want to display the things. And, but I'm like, okay, I'll keep all the boxes just in case. And now I'm at a point where I'm going like, ready to just throw these things out and not worry about it. Okay, we're almost there. The tricky part here is the cape, which is sort of wired, so you can do neat things with it, which I appreciate, but getting it out of this plastic is not particularly easy, if I'm completely honest. What we're going to do is make a little cut in the plastic, bend those out, and maybe it'll come out easier. Do not think that made any difference whatsoever. There we go. Hot diggity dog. Okay. Batgirl. How many people remember the song? Not that there was much to it. Batgirl, 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 Batgirl. Where does she come from? Where does she go? Da 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 da. I'm one of the people that doesn't remember the song. There we go. Let me see if I can put her into a position that looks remotely normal human. There we go. That's not too bad. All right, and we got we'll put the cape billowing out behind her. That McFarlane Batgirl. Let me see if I can get nice and centered. Will we get I don't know if I'll get it real clear, but there we go. I think they did a nice job, honestly. On the face. Yeah, a little bit of a sort of crosshatch look, but with and the hair. I think they did a really nice job with this. Good job, guys. I was really impressed by it is wired, so you can mess with it and do whatever you want to do with that. I think that's really nice. I'm pretty happy with that. And primarily because I think they did a great job with the face sculpt. I was saying that the cheetah figure that they did for the Super Friends line, I was really impressed with that one as well. In terms of the face. So we got, I think pretty good range of motion. You know, you can do the back and forth, the elbows, of course. You got the head goes down. We got that torso. Excuse me. Not trying to be too personal there. Got the knees bend, but also you got to notice so you see the toes will flex upwards, so you can do some cooler poses like that. How much the legs? A little bit of leg rotation, not a ton. Doesn't look like, but it might be different if I really started messing with it and trying to get particular poses. I might find that there's a little more mobility there. So there we go. McFarlane Batgirl. Really nice job. A lot of credit for that. They do, look, some of their stuff hits and some of their stuff doesn't maybe hit quite as well. I get that. And some of the exclusives are a real pain in the butt as far as when is it coming out? Is it coming out? Cotton Eye Joe. Thank you, Lone Dragon. Oh, the Wonder Woman TV show. Yeah, theme. Wonder Woman. Da 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 da. In her satin tights, fighting for her rights. I love that show. How do you not love that show? Make sure I didn't miss it. I missed the smell of bubblegum cards. Oh, yeah. Raimi, I'm with you there. That's what we used to do. You got them in bubblegum cards, and you just, it's like, I know there were people who would have collected specifically the old Star Wars cards, but most of us, like, we were duffers. We were just, if you could convince your mom to give you whatever it was, $1 or something, or 50 cents, you'd get a pack and you were just jazzed at whatever you had. And you'd have maybe 7, 8, maybe 9 or 10 of those cards floating around your room of various different kinds. And then eventually someday probably sell them in a garage sale. So I'm sure there were people that were really serious collectors even then, but most of us were just like, it was just something fun. It was just a cute thing to sort of have. I've shown this off a long time ago. This is easily the dumbest thing I ever bought on eBay. Or no, it was the Goodwill site. And I still need to clean it better, but I'm afraid. But somebody took this old Snoopy lunchbox and they completely covered it with stickers, mostly from Star Wars, but with a couple other things thrown in there as well. With some on the bottom. Oh yeah, on the bottom we got a little Mork and Mindy action down there. And so I saw this thing and I'm like going, this is like Gen X folk art almost. And so what I keep in it is, sort of open it a little bit. I keep those petty block things that I got at Daiso. I keep some of those in there. So it's not completely wasted, but I'm just like, dude, some dumb kid used up all those stickers and posted them all over his Snoopy lunchbox. And I got it. It was really cheap. And I'm like, I'm getting it anyways. I don't care. It's so stupid. The other pickups I got this week, nothing really major, but hit the one comic shop on Wednesday. Grabbed an old Lois Lane that I didn't have that I liked the price of. Okay, so this, I'm like going, oh, are they doing... This had not been on his shelves before, to the best of my knowledge. I'm like, oh, okay, Tales of the Tiny Titans, Judas Contract. Well, wait a minute. It's part 3. It's book 3. Did they do the other 2? And I'm looking at it, and it's like it was published back in 2024 in September, but it was up with all the newer stuff. But I was like, well, screw it. I'm going to get it anyways because I like that. Got an Outsiders special. And these are ones that I got from, or no, this one isn't. Got a Weird War. These I got from mycomicshop.com because I needed this last Justice League Europe for my Justice League Monday videos. This is the one that I didn't have still that was going to come up. So I grabbed it, and then I went ahead and grabbed the last of the Deluxe Marvel Universe books for that collection. So I got this full run again. And then I grabbed a West Coast Avengers #1 because I've been collecting those. And I thought, well, let's get the issue #1 before they do something crazy at Disney and it suddenly gets really, really, really expensive. And I just got a fine issue copy. It's not like super good shape, but I was happy with it. Other thing that showed up this week, I wanted to show these off a little bit. It's from a shop on eBay called My Toy Fix, F-I-X. And he sells a bunch of like 3D printed stands. Okay, so these are ones for Masters of the Universe. I got a few old figures. And of course, sometimes it's really difficult to get them to stand up. The legs get really weak and they don't want to, behave themselves. So here, for example, is a Fisto figure on the thing. It just has these 2 little straps. You put their their feet into. And this is one, by the way, who would not stand up on his own. His legs are they're wonky as hell. And I mostly own him because I think the name Fisto is friggin' funny. Like, did they know? Could they have known? I don't know. Any rate, but the other reason I got them is I got some Migos, some Figures Toy Company that don't like to stand up all that well either. And I've used stands like this one before. You know, you kind of lift it up, you put the figure in, well, it holds on to them. The only thing I don't like about these, though, is that that's a big base, and it takes up a fair amount of room, you know? Dude, I don't think the Wonder Man TV series, Raimi, is going to increase the price of anything. In fact, it might make old Wonder Man comics more affordable. But at any rate, that takes up a ton of room, and I don't really like them. So I thought, I wonder, could I use the bases for the Masters of the Universe for like Mego and Figures Toy Company figures? Would they be the right size? So here, for example, is the Figure Toys Company Aquaman from the Super Friends era. Whoops, I had a little high. And he has trouble because it's like the tights want to like pull on his, what the heck was that? Oh, I think it was the plastic from the Batgirl. The tights kind of pull the legs in a little bit, so it wouldn't stand up at all. Would not stand up at all. And it actually fits pretty dang well in this thing. Now, he doesn't have like boots on. So some of the figures with boots might be a little trouble. And you do have to keep his back sort of stiff. But you can kind of see. I mean, there he is. He's basically standing up on his own now. And so I'm like, okay, I wanted to try that out. He also, I bought him a trident on Laser Mego. If you're into Mego stuff, Laser Mego makes some pretty cool stuff. And so I bought one of those, and it's sadly he can't really hold jack diddly crap in his hands. I'm trying to see if I can sort of get it in there. If I pull this back far enough, he's sort of holding his trident now. You know, I don't want to make this too adult, but there we go. So yeah, so the experiment kind of works. So I'm going to try it with a couple characters who have like boots or maybe thicker feet. It probably won't work with them, but if I can get it to work on a few of those, it takes up a lot less room. And so I might buy some more of those. So mytoyfix.com, I bought like a group of 10 of them. It's not real expensive. That's the other nice thing, is because some of these darn things, they're not cheap, man. They're really not cheap at all. This thing is dusty as hell. And I just soon not have to use them because I got a lot of stuff. And if I can point my thumb the right way. And if I could, pack them in a little tighter, then I have more room to display the things. So, I've looked for 3D printed stands for like the Migos, and they're all sort of more this style. They're different shapes. You know, I've tried at other plastic ones, but they all have the larger bases that take up a lot more room, you know, and kind of get in the way of other figures. Then if you're trying to move stuff, the darn base will bump things and knock everything over and all that kind of crap. So tried the experiment out, and it seems like it actually worked pretty good. All right, let's check out some new releases, new campaigns that are floating around. Mondo, they're putting out their Batman animated series Two-Face, 12-inch figure, so big figure. Pre-order going live November 4th, so that'll be Tuesday, at noon Eastern Standard Time. $235, limited to 1,500 pieces. So that's steep. I have a hard time with these. I like that animated series, but I don't think I don't think the animated style they have always works well in 3D. Some of the figures I've seen, I'm like, huh, that looked really awesome in the cartoon, and it looks a little bit awkward here. But at $235, I couldn't justify it. But if you are into the animated series and need Two-Face and need him to be 12 inches high, and you have $235, there you go. I thought this was cool. Waxworks Records has announced what they're saying. It's their first black record in years, meaning it's not a colored vinyl. The iconic Creep Show by John Harrison, who also did Day of the Dead, Tales from the Dark Side. So you get the vinyl album, $35 pre-order. Delivery is scheduled for February of 2026. It is limited to, does it come with a solid gold coin? Yeah, it's actually gold, and they just paint it to look like Two-Face. Limited to 300 units. And $35 ain't bad at this point in time for vinyl, cool looking cover art and stuff. If you go to Waxworks Records, I believe you can find it there. You might want to check that out if you're into that. I thought that was cool. And the $35, hey, $200 less than that Two-Face statue. Maybe that's how I should pair all this stuff now. This is not new, but I saw a post from Pop Cult Frenzy on X that the compendium #1, which gathers issues 1 to 50, is only at the moment $36 on Amazon, $36.32 on Amazon. So if you've been wanting that, not bad. I really thought, oh, dude, that Cold Slither thing, yeah, it's a cool idea, but you're right, it's gonna be a lot. But if you've been waiting for this one, I really am tempted, because it's the first 50 issues for $36. I mean, that's pretty darn good. It's just a matter of like, where am I going to put it? I just don't have bookshelf space. I need to clear some stuff out, but I'm kind of at a point where I'm going, there's not a lot of stuff I have at this point that I kind of want to get rid of. I'm pretty attached to what I still have on my bookshelves at this point. So, anyways, but you might want to look at that on Amazon. Now, it's a 3 days ago, so I couldn't swear that it's still $36, but you might want to go check it out while you still have a chance. Perfect accompaniment to that. I don't even know if this is new, but this is the X-Shot Insanity motorized Ragefire toy dart blaster by Zuru, which is now $40 at Target. You get 72 foam darts. So it is a foam dart Gatling gun for $40. And Christmas is around the corner. So honestly, you could buy you could buy 5 of those for the price of that Two-Face statue. I think I'd rather have 5 of those or what have you. Ramey says, I'd love to have the entire OG run of G.I. Joe from Marvel. Yeah, it's still insane to me that I did not buy those. I had just kind of moved out of my action figure phase into my comic book phase. And it was like, okay, G.I. Joe, yeah, transfer. Whatever. I'm into the superheroes at the moment. They were kind of new to me, comic book wise. But I was so into G.I. Joe when I was just a little bit younger. It's amazing. And now when you look at how well they've all done, I'm like, holy shit. Wish I'd bought them. I probably would have gotten rid of them at some point like an idiot. But anyhow, there you go. I will say it again. Although I think I looked up like Nerf Gatling gun on Target, but the X-Shot Insanity motorized Ragefire toy dart blaster by Zuru. It almost feels like saying the Range Rider, the Red Rider, BB gun, that whole spiel that Ralphie does every time, with the compass and the handle. That's what it feels like saying that. But honestly, this would be if you got kids, maybe even up into early teens, this looks like it would be a great gift from Dad, where you got this box sort of off to the side and you've already put it together, right? And you got this big box around it or whatever, or like a giant bag, whatever. And it's like, no, that's the piece de resistance. We got to wait, and the kids are all excited and Dad goes, okay, man, here we go. And he comes in behind it and pulls the thing up and then just starts shooting darts all over the room. That would be a Christmas to remember, kids. That would be a Christmas. Yeah, 2, mount them on your truck. Yeah. That could actually work out badly for you, sadly, but that would be very funny, assuming nobody tries to take you out or thinks it's real. Yeah. So I just had to share that. I thought that was fan-friggin-tastic. It's belt-fed. It is belt-fed. That is so rad. I want one. I have no use for it, but I want one. Preternia on X showing off some of the spring 2026 lineup for Masters of the Universe, Origin and Masterverse from Mattel. I kind of had to cut these cards up so they would be a little more visible, but if you want a quick look at the figures that are coming out from them, I'm kind of a retro dude as far as this stuff goes. Okay, what was this one? That was the cartoon collection, and those are the remainder of the cartoon collection. And then we got the Masterverse, New Eternia. So, yeah, they look a little bit anti-Eternia He-Man, Mosquitor, Mantina, Man-at-Arms, and Tila. Look like they're from the vintage collection. See, now the vintage collection, that Tila looks pretty good. I wouldn't mind like a vintage one, like a looking one like that. Keldor, Adora. Yeah, the Adora one I think is that evil version of She-Ra that they had in that one. But so it's pretty cool. Dude, Stratos is I always like the Stratos. I have a list of like, I don't know, maybe like 4 or 5 vintage Masters of the Universe figures I'd like to get because I really didn't play with them as a kid. I think I mentioned this before. Really good friend of mine got the full original set from his grandparents for Hanukkah. And I mean to say, Castle Grayskull, all the figures, all the vehicles, everything for that initial release. He got the whole schmear. And we were probably around 12 to 13. And in those days, that's about the time you're going into junior high. You need to start giving up some of this stuff. That's when you started hiding like your D&D books and things like that. And so I remember going over to his house, me and another friend, and we're looking at all of it. And we're like, yeah, it's kind of cool. I don't know. Like, I don't know what this is. I knew Star Wars. I understood G.I. Joe. It was Army stuff. Wasn't sure what to do with the sword and sorcery at that point. So we never got into it. I can remember playing. I had to babysit for a little kid one time. I remember playing with the Masters of the Universe figures with him. He was like probably 5 or 6, so it wasn't a real complicated game. But as an adult, I started watching some of the old cartoons just for the hell of it. And they're bonkers, but there's some really great creative crap in them. They're fun. And so I started looking at the figures and I'm like, I do like some of these figures. I like some of the designs. And Stratos was one of them. So I got Fisto. I got a He-Man and a Skeletor. But the Skeletor's not vintage. I've got a Trapjaw was one of my favorites. And I wouldn't mind getting like the original Tila and Evil Lyn, I think are kind of cool. I have a Man-at-Arms. I do have a Man-at-Arms. Triclops I kind of liked. Merman I kind of liked. I kind of like Beast Man. There's just a few that I wouldn't mind getting, but I'm kind of like cool. If it's not vintage, but it looks vintage, I'm kind of cool with that. So there you go. So there's some new stuff coming up in 2026 for Masters of the Universe. Via Bloody Disgusting, there is a Kickstarter for Weird Tales, This will be their first graphic novel. They're teaming up with Monstrous to do this. Main cover is by Kelly Jones. The book is going to, Ram Man. Actually, we do like Ram Man in this house. We are fans of Ram Man because he's so nuts. The cartoon one especially. Didn't he have like a really deep voice? He just bounces around. I agree. Man-at-Arms is superior with this mustache. I'm sorry to the original toy line, but yes, I do like the stash. So it's going to be this. The Weird Tales is going to adapt the following stories. Michael Avallone's The Man Who Walked on Air by artist Robert Hack and writer David Avallone. Thinking there's maybe a relationship there. Ray Bradbury's The Sith by artist J.K. Woodward and acclaimed horror author Jonathan Mayberry, or Mabry, I don't know how he says it. He's acclaimed, I never heard of him. Allison V. Harding's The Damp Man by artist Marco Finnegan and writer Nancy A. Collins. Robert E. Howard's Skulls in the Stars by Steve Niles, co-creator of 30 Days of Night. C.L. Moore's Shambleau by artist George Quadros and writer Blake Northcott. And it's also going to feature original stories, including a Lovecraft mythos story by Peabody Award-winning writer Rodney Barnes, Dr. Satan versus Jules de Grandin by Monstrous Books' James Aquilone, and The Cthulhu Project by Richard Crepit. So, I'll be honest with you, I don't know most of those names. I couldn't swear to the quality. I don't know if this is going to be like, crazy biased politically and stuff. Kelly Jones is definitely not of that sort, and he's doing the cover. So who knows? But it could be very cool. I know The Damp Man, The Moist Man. It's a horror anthology. A moist man would be a little bit scary, honestly. But that is coming out. Oh God, I'm not sure actually when. I don't have that written down. Google it. What can I tell you? I do what I can. Also, Fantagraphics. This is for Finns for sure. Second volume collecting Ernie Bushmiller's Nancy comics coming June 2026. I will definitely get that. I got the first one, Nancy Wears Hats, and it's great. If you love Ernie Bushmiller, this is the old classic stuff. Dude just had an interesting sense of humor. It's I don't know. It's a little weird. It's pretty gentle at the same time. I don't know. It's hard to describe. I was not into Nancy when I was a kid. Reading the comic strips. I wasn't. And now as an adult, I started reading them. There's a guy on X who posts them. And I'm really enjoying them. I like Bushmiller's style. So you might want to go looking for that. June of 2026. Dude. Fantagraphics. Oh, that was my last one. So professional. Fantagraphics is not putting this out. But a new Brave Raideen Shogun Warrior. I'm doing great. Shogun Warrior. Up for sale now, pre-order, on Entertainment Earth. Should deliver in May of 2026. About 2 feet tall, like the original, which I do have one of those sitting back there, as you could see. That's an original one. So this is new. It does have some shooty bits that you can, attack your friends with. $250. $250. Now, I went and found an old advertisement for the old Shogun Warrior toys. And adjusting for inflation, about $60 was what they would cost nowadays. And if this cost $60, and if that one they did of Mazinga was $60, I would have bought both of them. But as it is, I'm probably not going to buy one of them. Finns, I had not ordered anything from the 404 archives. I hadn't. I looked at it real quick, but dude, there's a couple things I've ordered recently, and I'm like going, I don't know, man. I probably shouldn't grab anything right now. I have to look again. I'll have to look again. They had a lot of cool stuff, though. They definitely had a lot of cool stuff. So anyhow, $250. So this is more than the Two-Face statue, but it's twice the height, and it's like 10 times the cool. So, but anyways, if you're one of those Shogun Warrior kids, the reality is, if you go on to like eBay now, and you're getting one in like really, really good shape, especially if it's like really good shape and it's in a box, you're in $1,500, $2,500 territory. Out of the box, but still in really, really good shape, complete, you're going to be around probably 150. Well, no, if it's in good shape, you're probably more like $500. So, if you take that into consideration, it's not a bad price. Bandai has a model kit for $60. How tall is that model? That's pretty cool. I was just watching, Brian Heiler did a video from the Montreal Toy Show, basically. And he was saying that the cool thing with like Quebec in Canada is because they had French language laws there for like programming. They got a lot of animation from Europe, from France. And that actually included a lot of anime that would be translated in France. And so kids in Quebec would get a lot of cool cartoons, especially Japanese cartoons, that kids in the rest of Canada did not get. And as a result, they also got the toys that went with them. And so he was looking, and I can't remember, it might have been Grindizer, one of the Shogun Warriors, but it was an exclusive to Europe. I can't remember if it might have been. It was an exclusive to Europe, and he said you can find them. And he did find a couple, and I don't think he bought one. But it's one he's wanted. And he said, yeah, you can find them in Quebec. It's real hard to find them anywhere else. So, but this is new, and that's pretty cool. And a foot tall. Okay. Well, it's not bad. Yeah. For 60 for sure. But oh boy, I wish this thing was $60. I would so get it. Speaking of stuff that I did spend some money on, although it's Kickstarter, so it hasn't charged me yet. The Lincoln Mini Monsters Kickstarter from Brian Heiler and some other folks is now on Kickstarter. $80 for the initial 4 figures carded, which is Mummy, Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman. Okay. And then stretch goals are going to be to release other figures at a $20 price point. So you see Phantom of the Opera there. You see Hunchback. There's some others that are based on the old Tomland figures, etc. I want to go check out the Kickstarter. These are really, really cool. Designed by Figure Fiend, and which I've talked about him before, and he has a great channel on YouTube. He designs these things. And one of the cool things about these are 3 3/4 inch figures, is that you can pop them apart. So you can remove the legs, the arms, the heads, mix and match stuff. And they're hoping to keep this line going to put in like ninja figures and, probably some sci-fi stuff. And obviously not licensed per se, but, who knows what could go. But I just love it, man. I think those are really cool. Looking forward to it. So I popped down the 80 for the initial 4 figures, and we'll see where it goes. If other stuff ends up becoming available, I might jump in on some of that too. And they even have, I think at the higher levels, they got that I think it was Rimco had like the Monster Maker table or something. It looks like a table that would be in Dr. Frankenstein's lab, essentially, that you could strap the old, these were originally like 8-inch models, 8-inch figures. But they're going to do one that's, sized for these, which just cool stuff. And what I love about these two, a $20 price point is not bad when you consider like what Super 7 charges for stuff. So it's a pretty decent price point. And even though, yes, these are primarily going to be going to collector types like me, you could get these for kids to play with. I think, because I got to tell you the stuff that I've got, the Lincoln Monsters, the stuff that White Elephant Toys makes, and they're involved in this too. They make some really good, solid, sturdy stuff. It's not the kind of stuff that's going to fall apart on you. So, I mean, like, you know, I'm not saying I'd give these to like really little kids because of the way they can come apart, but I could see slightly older kids, if they're getting into like monster movies and stuff, I could still see people having fun with these. And especially the way you can mix and match them. The guy from Absolutely Retro, also involved in this, came up with the idea for that based on the fact that when he was a kid, you know, he was one of those kids that would snip apart the G.I. Joes so you could make your own G.I. Joes by mixing the body parts together, and you get an O-ring, which apparently those O-rings you could just get at an auto parts store back in the day. It was, maybe you still could, but you'd get new O-rings, or you just use a rubber band or something that was good and tight, and you just make your own original G.I. Joes out of pieces of other Joes. So he wanted to do something like that with the monsters. So pretty cool stuff. I'm pretty happy with it, and I hope it keeps going. I hope they get to make a whole lot of these. But again, Christmas is coming. Yeah, you're not going to get these in time for Christmas, but I don't think. But it's maybe for next Christmas. If you have a kid who's into that kind of stuff and want to get them some older fashioned kind of toys that maybe fire creativity a little bit more, you know, and as long as he doesn't have like a mom who's freaked out by monsters. Something to think about, you know, great for collectors, but I love the idea of toys actually being played with by kids. Ramey Butler, I want the old Rimco DC line, Warlord, and the Sergeant Rock line. Yeah, I got one Sergeant Rock figure up with my G.I. Joes. They were pretty cool. And I think they were based on something earlier. Because one of the sculpts, or no, maybe I'm thinking of something else. It might have been Sergeant Rock. One of their sculpts looked a lot like an old one done for a SWAT helicopter. Remember the old TV show SWAT? They had toys. I had it when I was a kid. So I think they reused some tooling from that. But yeah, and the Warlord ones are cool. And there's a couple of those I definitely like to get because they do go so well with the Masters of the Universe guys. Bronze Star number 2. Now on Fund My Comic. This is written by Mike Barron, art by Pat Broderick. The first episode, or first issue, I should say, is it's a Western, involves a werewolf. This one, he said, let's see. If the first volume was H.P. Lovecraft meets Sergio Leone, this volume could be called Deadwood by way of Mary Shelley. So what exactly he's going to be fighting in this, I don't know, but it looks pretty demonic. There are 3 different covers. That's the one that I grabbed. And that is the third one. 56-page book for $25. And if you didn't get issue number 1, you can get that on Fund My Comic right now as well. I believe it was also $25. Very cool series. One I've been keeping up with. Happy that the second issue is coming out. So that is Bronze Star number 2 on Fund My Comic from Mike Barron and Pat Broderick. And then also Graham Nolan launched Chinoo 77 on Indiegogo. This is the sequel to his Chinoo comic book, which is sort of like a cryptid Bigfoot Yeti haunting Buffalo, New York. And this one obviously is set in 1977. So part of his Nolan verse, is that what he's calling him? I think it was Nolan verse. Along with like the Ghosts of Matacumba Key, Joe Frankenstein. He's got a couple others. Fun stuff. Rageaholic has a the Ghost of the Badlands. Yeah, I did a review on this channel of that one. It is good, and the artist pulled out from doing future ones, but it looks like he's going ahead with either himself or a different artist. But I haven't heard anything firm on that. But yeah, Ghost of the Badlands was pretty good. It's got like it's got a little bit of the flavor of The Shadow, which he's a huge fan of, does some great videos on that. And a little bit of, some of the bande dessinée westerns like Blueberry. You can feel a little bit of that in there. Yeah, it's like this dude who wears a mask who is, going after evil in the name of the Lord, but he seems like he might be, he's kind of what's the word I'm looking for? The preachers who get all into that stuff. Hellfire. Something in Hellfire. I can't remember the term now. Yeah, he's a scary dude, but he has sort of a shadow thing going with operatives. It was a good book. And I'm glad he's going to, do some more stuff without that original artist. I think George, is it Alexopoulos? I'm trying to think what his full name is. Hellfire and Brimstone. Thank you, dear. He wanted to handle all of the fulfillment and stuff himself. And I think he burned himself out, honestly. And so because of all the time it took, he's going back to doing some other stuff that he'd done before. I think he burned himself out. And he seemed like one of those guys who gets super passionate about something, and then kind of goes 150% into it and then kind of burns out. That's just what it seemed like to me from the outside. So he's going to do it with somebody else. And I'm hoping more people take advantage of Ripasend and services like that who are writers and artists to let, if you can, let somebody else handle the fulfillment so you could focus on producing the art. I think it's a good opportunity for some. So yeah, I think there's going to be more of that coming out, but there's Chanu 77 might be worth checking out. Not much more to go, but a couple more things I wanted to talk about. Because we had Halloween just a couple days ago, the run up to Halloween, watching old, weird, scary movies. I saw some stuff that I kind of dug. I thought I'd share them with you because some of them might be kind of new to you. Some of them you might know. This one especially. This is one that just popped up in my YouTube feed. 7 Footprints to Satan. And I like the art on the thumbnail, and I'm going, okay, all right. Now, this is a silent movie, 1929. It is based on a story by Abraham Merritt, who did some really weird fiction back in the day. The Metal Monsters. It's an incredible book. It is like vector graphics, but written in the 1920s. It's the best way I can describe it. It is bizarre. And it's kind of a fun read. And he did the Moon Pool. So he's some good stuff. So this is a story that he wrote. The movie stars Creighton Hale, I didn't really know, Thelma Todd, who I do, Sheldon Lewis, William V. Mong, directed by Benjamin Christensen, who was, I think, a Danish director who did 3 films in the U.S. with Thelma Todd. She was like his muse. It is a weird flick. It's kind of a horror comedy. I grabbed a few images. This is our hero who has decided he wants to be an explorer in Africa. He wants to go to Africa, safari, etc. And his uncle, who he works for, is kind of like, you sure about that? Don't think that's a good idea. He goes, you got a job here. You got a fiance played by Thelma Todd. Why don't you marry her? Maybe that would be a better idea for you. I don't know that you're cut out for He-Man adventure. So he's like, no, I'm going. So him and his fiance are going to this party that night. And these crooks break in and he gets kidnapped and taken to this mysterious mansion that is owned by Satan, or sometimes Mr. Satan. And it is filmed, he directed pastries, cherry ones too, which were my favorite. So there's Thelma Todd, his fiance, but it is filled with all sorts of bizarre characters, scaring the crap out of him. Here's this one dude, kind of this giggling, God, he's almost got like a Joker thing going. This woman, the makeup in it is really, really great. That is the line when she shows up she says, "I am the mistress of Satan." And he says, "My ass, I don't believe you." And I was like, dude, that's awesome. There's a guy in a gorilla suit. There is a little guy, a little person who looks absolutely freaky. There's a dude who looks like, a satanic Fu Manchu. There's that guy. He's got like hair all over his face. And this chick is like the one sort of seductive femme fatale in the thing. It all comes down to this challenge he has to pass in order to save his fiance. And there's a nice little sort of a twist ending, which, you can maybe guess it, but it was fun. It was thoroughly fun. It is silent. It's a silent movie. So if you're not into that, okay, but it is really cool. A lot of great makeup, a lot of great concepts, and just, it was nuts. It was nuts. I really, really enjoyed it. And then I saw somebody on X tweeted about, an old double feature from back in 1966, Billy the Kid versus Dracula, and Jesse James meets Frankenstein's daughter, which I'd seen before. And I'm like, that might be fun for Halloween, afternoon. Watch those horror Westerns. And then I thought of a third one that I added. So I did a triple feature. Curse of the Undead. His body is an empty shell that hides a lustful fiend. Which actually kind of oversells it a little bit. Curse of the Undead is from 1959, directed by Edward Dean. It stars Eric Fleming as Preacher Dan. It stars Kathleen Crowley as Dolores Carter. She's sort of the victim of the fiend in this one. And Michael Pate as Drake Roby, a vampire in the Old West. And it's pretty good. I like the movie overall. Pacing is a little bit slow here and there. I think it's going for sort of spooky and ominous, but it doesn't quite achieve it as well as it could. But I really like Pate as the gunslinger vampire. Now, he does walk around in the daytime, so it doesn't obey all the vampire rules that we're kind of used to. But I thought it was pretty darn good. I've seen it on like Svengoolie before, but it's worth it just as a movie on its own. Billy the Kid versus Dracula, 1966. Now, both this and the Jesse James movie were directed by William Bodine. Guy did tons of B movies. These were his last two films, and they were shot almost like at the same time on the same ranch in California. So like I said, they were a double feature. They were kind of even filmed together. This, I think, in my opinion, is the lesser of the two. It's a pretty straight up Dracula type story. We get John Carradine playing Dracula, but he's got sort of the Old West thing going. He's kind of a visitor to America and immediately gets into trouble. We got Chuck Courtney as Billy the Kid, who's not bad, but not a massive amount of charisma for me to really sell the sort of hero. And of course, it's the reformed version of Billy the Kid. He's a good guy now. And then we get Melinda Plowman as Betty Bentley, the vampire's victim for this movie. I liked her. She had a lot of spunk. I thought she was pretty cool. So yeah, it kind of goes where you would expect it to go. Again, a lot of stuff kind of in the daytime as well. The doctor in this one is played, oh God, her name just escaped me, played by Harry Carey's wife. If you know Harry Carey, the movie guy, did a ton of old Westerns and stuff like that. This is his wife playing this doctor, and I kind of liked her. Not a massively strong performance, but she was like, I don't know, she was kind of reminded me a little bit of Bones McCoy in just her like delivery of stuff. She was real blunt about things. So I did enjoy that character, but that was Billy the Kid versus Dracula. And then Jesse James meets Frankenstein's daughter. Now this is a Mexican poster, but frankly, it was way more entertaining than the than the American posters that I found. So I used this one. You notice it kind of looks like Boris Karloff up there. No, nothing like Boris Karloff in this movie. This one has Narda Onyx as the Lady Frankenstein, who has come to America to kind of start up her father's business. Now here, she has these synthetic brains that were made by Dr. Frankenstein that she's trying to put in people's heads, basically, and with electricity to sort of revive them. And she's having trouble getting it to work, but she thinks she's figured out what she was doing wrong. And she wants to get like a dude who's really big and strong because it'll be easier to work with a large frame, which I think was kind of in the original stories too. Jesse James is played by John Lupton. I actually really liked him in this movie. I think he did a great job playing the character. So he is with this, he's got this dude he's with called Hank Tracy, played by Cal Boulder, who is basically a big muscular dude. And they're trying to, they're not using their real names. They're trying to lay low, but he hooks up with these other bandits. He's going to pull a job with them. And this gets him involved in the whole storyline. Estelita Rodriguez is in the movie, plays Juanita Lopez. She was a Cuban nightclub singer who got into movies in America. Did some big ones, did a lot of smaller Westerns and stuff. She's really good in the movie. I really, really liked her. A lot of charisma. And this is ultimately what we get. Now, they call him Igor. That's what she dubs him. That's the Hank Tracy character. You can see he's had the top of his skull sawed off so they could put the brain in. And she manages to bring him back, blah, 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 blah. I like this one. I think this is the stronger of the two films in that double feature. The print that they have on YouTube is really, really nice. It's really sharp. Kind of looks like it was shot yesterday, in terms of that. Very colorful. Both these were done in 1966. They're goofy, but they're fun movies. And so I did a triple feature of Western horror from the old days. Modern Western horror, Bone, Lord, why can't I think of the name of that? Somebody's going to remember it. Bone Tomahawk. A little bit more intense than what you were getting here. I did a review of Bone Tomahawk, my first year of doing videos. It's one of my first ones. Don't watch Bone Tomahawk if you're a little squeamish. You're not going to like it. But that, I think, will just about do it for this iteration of Dad's Den Live. I will leave you with an old ad, Vincent Price for cremettes. Vincent Price likes cremettes, and Vincent Price has a really awesome casserole recipe that involves macaroni and Spam. And you might want to look for this out there online. And we're heading into the fall, cooler temperatures, great casserole weather. Do you have the guts to make Vincent Price's supper casserole with cremette, pasta, and Spam? Do you have the guts? Let me know if you make this and how it turned out. I have a weird feeling my wife's not going to let me do this. But coming up this week in Dad's Den as we go into November, we leave spooky season behind, but fall itself is a little bit spooky, right? On Monday, I got Justice League America number 44 and 20 as we continue our Monday reviews of the old Justice League series. Wednesday, I'm going to do a review of a British kids show called Children of the Stones. Made for kids, but it's watchable by adults. It's pretty cool. Little sort of X-Files kind of thing going on as this boy and his dad investigate this stone circle with some weird happenings going on. You might want to check that one out. And on Friday, I'm going to do a little review of the new Micronauts wave from Super 7, Force Commander. I actually still have them sitting on my desk. I need to put him on a stand because the one negative with these things is the legs like to stick together, sort of. Spread them way. So there we go. There's Force Commander. And Microtron, which I got to be honest with you, this little silly Microtron figure is becoming one of my favorite figures I've gotten this year. I don't know what it is about it. There's just something really retro and fun about this thing. It's becoming a favorite. I'm probably going to do late December. I might do something that's like my top 5 new toys of this year that I got, maybe top 5 like indie comic books that I've gotten. It might be fun to do that. I will see. Spam or treat. Yeah. That would be something to do, huh? One of these years. Just give spam away for Halloween. I mean, a full can. Don't get chintzy on the kids. You know, you don't want to just put a goobery sort of jelly covered spam slab in a kid's bag. But yeah, give out cans of spam. I think it'd be good. And maybe you could even print out this recipe, you know, sort of wrap it up in the recipe. And the kid can go home and they can have a delicious meal of Vincent's Supper Casserole. Well, I think, folks, that will do it for today. Golly, an hour and 45 minutes. That was a longer one. But we had some good conversation on this one. And I really appreciate everybody in the chat. Lone Dragon, we got Ramey Butler, of course, Lady Wendolyn. We got Finn's in there a little bit, and we got Sleepy. I'm trying to find Sleepy's entire name here. But Sleepy went to sleep on us, so it's a ways up. There he is. Sleepy Reader 666. 666. Thank you, everybody, for joining the chat. Thank everybody who watched, who wasn't in the chat. And hey, think about jumping in. We just try to have a good time and make bad jokes and whatever. I will see you next time. In the meantime, though, God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have a little bit of fun out there. And like I said, I got some videos coming up this week. It's my 3rd year of videos. It has been a rough year in YouTube land, but I am persisting and hopefully have some fun stuff for you this November. So tune back in. Hope to see you soon. That will do it for Dad Live in the Den. Bye-bye.